Hey there, folks. This is Father Dougal 9000 here. A long time ago, I used to do video game reviews on this here old YouTube. It was something that I enjoyed doing. It gave me a lot of experience in writing, recording, editing, thinking critically about games in ways that I still rely on today. But I eventually moved on from it because I found the actual creation process beyond writing to be too much of a hassle. Something that was way more stressful than I ever really wanted it to be. And that was 4 years ago now. So what am I doing here? Well, that whole video making bug never really went away, because I still always had ideas for things I wanted to talk about, but I could never find the motivation or the time to do something with it. Never really seemed worth the bother when I could be doing other things. Except now I've got an idea. Short little videos. For the past 2 years almost, I've been doing write-ups for games I've been playing on the Hardcore Gaming 101 Forums Game Finish Challenge. I play a game with the intent of beating it, and, if I've beaten it, I then do a write-up where I talk briefly about my impressions of the game. I've done nearly 200 of these write-ups, talking about all kinds of games and observing various things and seeing my thought process change over time because of this, so why not use them here? My plan for this is to make videos with the bare minimum of effort. I'll casually read 2 or 3 of these write-ups, I'll put some music and footage against that to make it vaguely more interesting from a production perspective than a man talking at you, and make a video out of that. I also want to make them short, cause Lord knows YouTube is full of lengthy game talky videos. Which is, pretty awesome. Hell yeah to the people who can do it, but sometimes you just want a nice, comfortable 9-minuter, or if not that, something that'll be quicker to watch than the 10 Commandments. Hopefully, this'll be something nice that you can relax to, and maybe learn about some games that you want to check out afterwards. I hope so. Hey, what's life worth if you can't try daft things on a whim? Here's the first 3 write-ups, originally done on the 10th and 14th of January, 2021. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie for the Sega Mega Drive. This is the first time I've replayed this one since my year-long Power Rangers Super Sentai obsession back in 2011-2012. And it's perhaps saying something as to how much I forgot about this side-scrolling beat-em-up. It's kinda cool that some of the stages adapt to memorable episodes from the second series. You get to play as both the original and the replacement Red, Black, and Yellow Rangers. The majority of the music is based from Ron Wasserman's various songs for the show, and they're quite good, as were the songs from the show. However, I played this in the middle of playing a bunch of other side-scrolling beat-em-ups of the early to mid-90s, like Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder, Batman Forever, Neketsu Oyako, and even Streets of Rage 2 for the Game Gear. And it became really apparent to me how lacking this one is by comparison. The combat itself is largely fine, if basic, and everything works as it should, but the enemy variety is incredibly low, with only 2 types of enemies besides the bosses, and levels mostly consist of long stretches where you punch people in the head. That said, the one thing I can't argue for is that it's a very easy game, even on the normal difficulty settings, because of your genuinely enormous health bar and the overall simplicity of the combat. It's the kind of game that's actually very good for spacing out to while you're doing other things, maybe listening to a podcast, or you're just having a think for a while, or you want to calm down. It's a very good game for that type of thing, and you know what, I'd recommend that if you are in the mood for that type of super simple game, or, you just want to punch putties while listening to Mega Drive as heck Ron Wasserman music. Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Pocket Adventure is a fairly notable handheld spin-off. For one thing, it cribs a lot from the Mega Drive classics in its level design, presentation, and music. Basically a weird mishmash of Sonic 2 levels and Sonic 3 and Knuckles music. Not only that, but it actually serves as a kinda precursor to the Sonic Advance series. A bunch of people who worked on Pocket Adventure later went on to work on the Advance games at DIMPS. I've often heard this one described as a hidden gem, and now that I've played more than a couple stages, I can say that I don't really feel the same. Sorry. There are plenty of things to like about it. The remixed music sounds quite good. I quite like the hidden puzzle pieces, because those offer a really good incentive to replay stages and explore. The level design itself approximates some of the original's philosophies pretty well, and the new bosses are frequently as good as the classics, which is often really hard to do. But what keeps me from loving it is the controls. It's a closer approximation of what the Mega Drive games played like than the previous 8-bit games, yeah, but I don't know, they feel heavy in all the wrong places. Not in terms of being different from the old physics and therefore inherently wrong, but more being actively clunky at times. Certain jumps, some of the rolls, and other things like that, they don't feel satisfying to do. And this kind of backfired a bit on me when the level designs got really quite nasty around the Egg Fortress analog. If you're able to roll along with how it controls, then hey, you'll probably get a kick out of Pocket Adventure. Hell yeah! But I am not really able to roll along with them, and if I ever plan on revisiting an 8-bit Sonic, it's gonna be the Game Gear version of Sonic 1 for the millionth time. Ah well. The Fancy Pants Adventures for the Xbox 360. Back in the mid-2000s, there was a guy called Brad Bourne, and he put out a couple of pretty sweet platformers called Fancy Pants Adventures, where you controlled a stickman in fancy trousers who ran around at blistering speeds in levels full of steep cliffs, winding hills, and tricky challenges, aided only by a versatile jump and the power of his momentum. For those reasons, it was often compared to Sonic the Hedgehog at the time, and while I don't know how much I'd agree with that personally, it doesn't change the fact that they are cool games worth checking out. They were really popular too, to the point where Bourne ended up making a sequel that came out for consoles in 2011, published by EA, of all people. Presumably this was at the tail end of their let's greenlight cool original games and not screw over our customers and staff phase in the late 2000s. This sequel, literally just called The Fancy Pants Adventures, takes on a bit of a different structure from the earlier games, with more open levels and plenty of optional collectibles and bonus room challenges. In a way, it reminded me a bunch of other platformers from the 2010s, like Rayman Origins and Legends, and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Though that's probably because they were all taking inspiration from New Super Mario Bros., particularly the Wii game, as its 4-player co-op also features in this game for whatever reason. It's a structure that I'm not really a fan of, but hey, it works well enough here, and it gives plenty of incentive to revisit stages, collect all the things, unlock more costumes, and all that good stuff. The most iffy addition, I think, is the combat, where you come to a complete halt to attack your enemy with a short-ranged sword, pencil, whatever. It breaks the game flow pretty bad, and honestly kind of feels like something that Bourne had to include. Like, the only time it feels relevant is when you run into an enemy that can't be taken out any other way. Otherwise, it's a pretty solid game, and it even unlocks remixed and expanded versions of the original 2 Fancy Pants games if you want to give those a bash too. Hey! As it turns out, in the process of playing this, I only realized way too late that this was an accidental replay. I was genuinely convinced I'd never beaten this game. Like, I remember trying to grab every collectible and getting frustrated by that to the point of giving up. I didn't realize that I wasn't into that kind of 100%ing 2D platformers with loads of pickups like Yoshi's Island. But when I beat the game, I faintly recognized something from the end credits and decided, okay, I've still got my old Xbox 360 profile on this console, I'll go into that for a minute and give it a look. And yeah, it turns out I did beat the game all the way back in 2013. I even completed the original Fancy Pants games they threw in as well, but I'd completely forgotten everything after the first couple of levels. Why not? As an aside, for historical interest, I ended up doing a bit of research on the series, and it turns out this sequel was eventually reworked into Fancy Pants Adventures World 3, and Bourne eventually developed another, much bigger sequel that came out on Steam a few years ago, called Super Fancy Pants Adventures, which even includes another reworked version of the original Fancy Pants levels with an extra level added in for fun. I had no idea there was so much to this series. It's been bananas. And with that, we have wrapped up the first video in this series, which I'll eventually figure out a name for. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed watching, and that you'll tune in for the next video, and hopefully find more cool games to check out, or just things to think about in general. Thank you so much for watching, and until we meet again, have a wonderful day.